All right, good morning. Let me get this started again. So once again, excited to have you here at Pilot Enterprise and have a lot going on today. So the question was, can we go over on the Miro boards where some of the information is? It's in the syllabus, and if you click on the syllabus, there's a link at the very top of the page, along with the Discord link, right? So as a reminder, the Miro boards we're using, this has kind of quickly become the industry standard, certainly for a lot of entertainment companies for collaboration. I was sharing this with my wife last night. I saw a lot of cursors moving around on the Miro board, and everyone was kind of working to put their things in place, which is great. I love seeing that we can kind of collaborate. And it looks like most of you have found where to kind of place just your updates. And the reason I want to do this is kind of transparency and looking into silos, right? So we can see if we're making progress. We can kind of see where things stand. I have a quick 30,000 foot overview of everybody in the class, wherever you placed your work in your cohort, right? So everyone's clear on that. You have your cohorts, and time willing, we're going to have some time this afternoon after a guest speaker to kind of come together, kind of figure out ideas a little bit further, refine them. And those cohorts will stay the same unless something kind of major happens. So groups of 4 to 5. And within that, as you all are doing here, I see this cursors move around. This is exactly what I was asking for. So today, your mission statement is in there. We've got a glimpse, a snapshot into your process for this idea catcher where you're using note cards. I just want to see progress here. Over on Canvas, that's where I'm going to be kind of taking a more in-depth look for grading and everything else. But this is just like, hey, I'm in the right place. I'm not up to speed where I need to be. And I would just ask that, take your an example here, cohort 1, you're in this box. You'll now be in that box for the rest of the semester for every week. Okay. Is everybody clear on kind of how we're using that and any major issues uploading anything at all with Miro boards? Okay. And that's, I did update that last night. Someone else emailed me. So when I miss things again, it's like herding cats in here, right? So a lot of people and a lot of moving parts. My first time running. So if I've got something like that, totally my fault. I just didn't put a submit button. So it should be there now for the mission statement. Your next assignment is also in place, and it should have a submit a button as well. So something I'll look for, but keep me honest with this stuff. If you get stuck and there's something that's off, it's probably my fault. Okay, so just let me know and I'll fix it as quickly as I can. Thank you. All right, so a quick overview into kind of what we're doing today. As I mentioned, we have a guest speaker starting at 10 o'clock. We're going to be up on stage. This is my first interview with somebody that's kind of live. They're going to be just kind of sharing their story. I've got some questions, and everything that we're doing, I'm trying to make sure that it relates back to where you all are as you're trying to figure out your journeys and what comes next. Okay. So I also mentioned that in parallel, I've asked you all to generate your first dollar with a sale of a service or product through your artwork. Okay. It's a big ask. And again, I know that I'm doing that. It's unorthodox. I haven't heard of a class requiring that before. It's 30% of your grade. So I'm taking it very seriously. While that's happening, I'm also in the process of launching a small business with my brother, right? And I don't know if you recall, but we're using this as a case study to kind of share the stumbles and things that I'm going through and the process that I'm going through to try to figure out how to launch that product into market on the same timeline. So it's a bit of a pressure cooker, right? So you're sharing with me, I'm sharing with you, and I have a few updates with that as well. Some pretty exciting things that happened yesterday and the day before to kind of give you some updates in the case study. So I've got a lecture component. I have a case study, guest speaker, cohorts. We have a lot to cover, and I'm behind the 8 ball today because I was trying to make something happen to show you all this morning, and with some luck, that will be in hand before the end of the class. Okay. So cohorts, look into this. You can kind of track that as well. You've also got Discord that you're using. That's just a great way to kind of keep updated. Again, that's more for you than for me. I do not have alerts turned on for Discord. So if you're trying to post something for me to see, emails is great. I'm checking email way too many times a day. Post something to Canvas, I'm usually kind of alerted to that. as well through email. All right. So anyways, you can reach out to me, and that is all good. Okay. Just a few things to go over. Um, I've asked that you kind of go ahead and sign up for the Gumroad platform, right? Why Gumroad? I want to walk you through just why I think this is a good platform for you to use. There's plenty of alternatives. You're welcome to use other things as well. You don't have to sell your market through Gumroad, but just so we have a common reference point, I'm going to be sharing some of those things with Gumroad and kind of how I would do it to start out. Gumroad is also free. On the front end, you are paying for the service through a percentage of sales. So if you sell something through Gumroad, I think they take by default, at least my last check was about 10%. All right. So here's something that's pretty interesting about Gumroad. At 10%, you're in the algorithm, your product is out there. They have a built-in audience, just like Kickstarter would or something else, right? But if you want more visibility, then you can choose to actually go through and raise your percentage of sales to 20% or 30%, wherever you want to set it. The higher you set it, the more visibility you get. So you're kind of paying for promotion and to be ranked higher in their algorithm based off the percentage that you tell them that you're willing to share, right? Again, this is coming at the back end and not the front end. So your sales through their platform, through their funding tools and everything else, it's coming out of that percentage. Does that make sense? But I think it's a very clever way for them to set up their business, and that's interesting to me. There's also pricing parity. Does anyone know what pricing parity is? All right. So the US dollar, sometimes it's really strong. Certainly internationally, it's oftentimes there's the default currency, right? And it's the reference point for so many other economies. Well, if you've traveled anywhere, you can see that the US dollar sometimes holds a lot of value versus the dollar somewhere else. So what pricing parity does is it lets you say, okay, I'm going to turn on pricing parity, and somebody that might be in South America in a different economy where the dollar is way too strong, and they might be paying for one of your products or services where you might charge $10 in the US, it might actually cost them $100 in their economy. So pricing parity actually has a scale that allows them to kind of pay based on their economy, something that's more of a fair rate. Really smart, right? So I've really enjoyed that. With my courses, I get a lot of students from different countries, and I'm always told that they're kind of appreciative of the pricing parity when I can actually share that through Gumroad. So something that if you want to just kind of even the playing field a little bit, it's a really nice thing to have on offer. All right. This is a new account. I've got my own account. I've got numbers and analytics and everything in there. I don't care to share that. I don't want to be that transparent with everything. But there are some really powerful tools in in Gumroad that lets you kind of measure your analytics. There's a subscriber list that's kind of built into it as well, which is oftentimes a separate service that you can do through MailChimp or Constant Contact. I think they're called Kit or something now. That's a different one. But there's several email services that are also free in the front end, usually until you hit a certain amount of subscribers. And just to give you a sense of why email lists are important, does anyone want to take a shot at it? Why is it important to kind of build an email list? What you got? Yeah. So it's a way to even take it further. So your answer was keeping people up to date in a means other than social media, or people who might not use social media. That's the big thing. So the just so it's in recording, the answer was social media can get drowned out. Just think about social media as really this giant ocean, right? I think maybe even more like a stream. It's a fast moving stream, and something comes up, we like it, dislike it, see it, it's there and it's gone. With your email, when we get so much email that it's rare for people to say, yeah, send me more email. So you have to really like somebody, what they're doing, and be interested in what they're doing to say, yeah, please send me more email. So the old adage is, or the new adage is that you make your money through email, not through social media. Or you might say, yeah, but I've got people DMing me and I've got all these things in my inbox and I sell. You might, that's great. That's the exception, not the rule. Okay. So your email is a curated way of directly communicating with people who've already expressed interest in what you're doing. Okay. So oftentimes we think about your email as a newsletter. A newsletter makes it sound super fancy. It's an email. Okay, you sound email with some frequency. You want to be in the process, and we'll go through this at length later in the semester, but I want to give you an overview of why an email list is important and you should start it right now. But we can start to think about this newsletter as just keeping people updated on things that are of value to them. Yes. Yeah. So social media is really, everybody has a platform. Everybody's going to the same place and it's just constantly updated. There is no curation of that. You can curate it, but the volume of information that we're getting through social media is really just, it's overwhelming, right? It's impossible to process all of it. When you have an email list, it's directly to somebody's inbox. It sits in their inbox until they open it or not open it or throw it in the trash or whatever, but it remains there, right? So it's a fixed messaging directly to people who've already expressed interest in what you're doing. Okay. So I'll talk to you a little bit about how that works in conjunction with your website and your messaging as the semester develops. But right now, the important thing is know that Gumroad has a subscriber feature. And when you message your subscribers, it goes directly in your email box. So it acts as an email list for you. First question here, Chance. Yeah, fantastic. And it's been around longer and it's been more consistent, right? So, fantastic answer. Yes. No license required. I mean, it's going to ask for things, and I'm not requiring this part of it, but it'll ask for things like you might need a bank account, you might need certain things like that. And some of you might not have a bank account in place already. So what does that tell us, right? Just like I was talking to you about these job seeker profiles, when you start to go to something like, oh, you have to have a bank account. It's like, oh, I guess I better have a checking account if I want to do business. I have to have a way to collect money, right? So anytime you see something like this, like, yeah, but I don't have that, that should be an alarm bell that maybe you should. Okay. So those things are in place and we'll talk more about that. I've gone through and kind of set up my first product. And this is kind of, again, the case study kind of rolled into the platform. All you're going to do is click on new product, open this thing up. And this is the poster that I created for Akira Kurosawa's Ran, the 40th anniversary for Studio Canal. And I'm in the process of securing a licensing agreement to sell limited edition prints of that. So that's the product. The business that my brother and I are starting are a little bit of a print / pop culture business. We're still working out the business name, the title, how we want this to flow. But I really want to do as much with as little as possible. So kind of the premise, I'm building the story in my head, like, look how we built this business from 79 cents to $10,000 or something like that. And what is 79 cents? It's the cost of note cards. Okay. So the idea craft, the idea catcher, everything else, all those things that you're starting with, we are starting with. So we have this image, and the exciting update on the case study is this. So we are now sourcing vendors, right? And vendors are people who we want to do business with. And a big part of that is, like, if you want to make prints as an example, well, you have to have somebody who knows how to print things. Okay. I want this to be a super high-end print, limited edition versus an open edition. We can talk more about scarcity and things like that with your business and how you drive value. But the important thing right now is I have worked in the past with a company called Triple Stamp Press, and they do phenomenal work. Phenomenal work. Highly recommend if you want to do screen printing T-shirts, limited edition prints that are screen prints. Go check them out. They are expert craftsmen all the way through. Yes. Triple Stamp Press. I will share out all these links too with you all, so you have those as a resource too, right? So they're down in Manchester. I've probably done half a dozen projects with them. I've never been disappointed. What's really cool about this, and the next step for you all is, as you start to identify the product and the thing that you want to make, you have to figure out its cost, right? And when you're doing business, you certainly want to understand kind of the value of your time, but you have overhead for things with prints, as an example. You have to pay for paper. You have to pay for the printing itself, for shipping containers, and all these other things that kind of go with it, marketing, all this stuff that goes in, right? So You try to take a survey of those things and build that stuff up before you can ever even put a price tag on the thing that you want to make, right? You can't undercharge for something that you're overpaying for, right? That would be bad business. Commerce is the lifeblood of business. So something here to share with you. What I really like about certain businesses is that they oftentimes have a pricing calculator. If you want to ballpark with triple stamp and you want to say, okay, we're going to work with apparel here. Actually, let me go into posters because that's what I'm doing. And I think the default size is 18 by 24. If you want to do something custom, you kind of reach out and talk to them directly. But if you want to just ballpark this and say, let's get into, what's that? Thank you. All right. So your paper type, so your support, right? And you might not know the difference between these things yet, but as you can imagine, 140-pound paper is heavier weight than 100-pound paper. And this is probably their stock. So there's going to be a premium paper. There's going to be a less premium paper. Okay. So let's just do, I like to start with the most expensive option. So what's the benchmark of where we're shooting for? And we might say, okay, this is 18 by 24, very standard poster size. Why 18 by 24? Anyone want to take a guess? It's common size. It's cut to human scale, right? We can actually manage things that are this size. You start to get into really big paper. It's really heavy. It's expensive to ship, right? So there's oftentimes a default price for default sizes. My advice is always try to find the standardized way of approaching things, right? If you want to do something custom, it gets more expensive, okay? If you did a print, as an example, that was, instead of 18 by 24, we did 11 by 24, you're wasting a ton of paper, okay? We can also say, let's say 4 colors, which is pretty standard, and we want to do 24. So you can immediately see a price there. You are paying per item $22.47. What does the market threshold allow for? Limited edition prints, you can do anything from $60, kind of on the lower end of limited edition, up to maybe $100. But if you start going over 100, it's got to be a really special limited edition print. Okay. Or you are highly collectible is also another way that you can charge more for. So your star rises and the value of your product rises as well. Does all make sense? So very quick, pretty cool, right? You can go get an actual quote for t-shirts or prints from a site like this. And tons of places have this. I love the calculator. It's easy to use. Now let's change a couple things and see what happens. Next up, let's go, okay, my limited edition is not going to be 24, but let's say 100. Price goes up, the price per item goes down. Okay, why is that? They've already done the prep work. Anyone done screen printing before? Okay, there's a lot of prep work up front, color separations. You have to set the screens. You got to mix the colors and find the colors. And then every time you do that, every color you put down in screen printing is more expensive, right? So the amount of work for them, it just becomes like an assembly line once things are set up. So let's change it again. Let's say 1,000. Now it's $5 each. So the more you make, the less the burden is on them per item, the cheaper it is per item, the more you can charge and the more you can make, right? So back to our email list, why is it important? It's a way of gauging interest. You can speak directly to people. Hey, I've got this poster that's coming out. Let me know if you're interested. I've got pre-sales going on. I have an interest site that I've set up, which is the next thing I'm doing with my brother. It's going to be a waiting list. We're working on this. We don't know the release date yet. Subscribe to this email if you're interested. We'll let you know when it launches. Okay. That's how they set up the Cybertruck with Tesla. Before they made it, they had a waiting list, and you had to pay $400 to be on the waiting list. So they knew that people had skin in the game. Didn't mean you had to buy the truck, but this was years before they launched. So it's a really smart way to test the market and put things out there. Make sense? All right. So the thing that was exciting is we're looking at screen printing, and the image I showed you is complex, and it's going to be really hard to reproduce that as 4 colors. So we're up to 10 colors with color separation. Price per image is now getting comparable to really high-end printing like a G-Clay. So if you know that term, Giclee, that's kind of the premium end of archival printing that's available. Color matching, it should look like your painting. It should look like your artwork. Screen printing, it's like its own artifact. It does its own thing. It's not going to be exactly faithful to what you've made. Okay. So these are the two ends that we're looking at. And I reached out to a company called Keith Fabry. They're over in Manchester as well. And we had a chance to go down for a site visit yesterday and spoke with Jimmy. Didn't realize till afterwards that Jimmy Keith is actually the owner. And he gave us this tour. My brother and I were blown away, blown away. You may have heard them online through another name. This is Poster Ninja. Okay, so Poster Ninja is based in Richmond. I didn't know. And they're right downtown. So something for you to check out here is we walked away with like tons of ideas. So anytime that you can go to a location and embed and go see what people are doing and how it's made, like there's so many things that avail themselves to you as opportunities, right? And Jeremy handed this to us and he kind of walked through paper samples. This is what different images look like on different paper. Here's archival, here's non-archival. We can do these posters, these scales, these sizes, high reproduction scans, CNC routers, just the works across the board. So they also have a website with a price on it. And I'm going to walk you through a case study. So this is largely clay art and photo prints. And we are looking at, again, I got to put my hands on them. I want y'all to check these out if you would like. I really like cold press. I do my illustrations and paintings on cold press. So that's kind of as faithful as you can get. And we are looking at 18 by 24, select a quantity, and we might be doing as many as 200, not 1,200. No, artwork, sorry. Immediate subtotal, I've got to generate $2,655.24 to cover the overhead just on producing the prints. I don't want to pay that, right? So what might I do? What might be a way that I actually, as they say, use other people's money? Pre-orders. Okay. You've all done pre-orders before. Kickstarter is a pre-order platform. It allows the artist to pitch without the risk of investing the money. This is not the way things have always been, by the way, right? You're talking about, what, 12 years ago, maybe? Crowdsourcing kind of came on the scene. I'm probably off. They're probably around longer than that. But certainly my awareness of them and its popularity has blown up. And we'll talk a lot about other platforms too. But pre-orders is a great way to say, all right, I've got to generate, let's just say $2,500. Okay. So let's say that I want to retail these things for, and that, by the way, is per item. I'm not going to be able to do the math, but we're looking probably, what, $20, something like that per item. I'm off. Just roll with it. But if I want to take pre-orders and cover that cost, and I can say, well, I'm going to sell them for 100, but my pre-orders, what's an incentive I might have for people to pre-order? No, please. Making them cheaper. Yeah. So the incentive, that's your leverage, right? That you actually can say, I'm going to retail it. You let people know I'm going to retail it for 100. You can get pre-orders at 80. So add-ons, incentives, and things that are personalized, and so all different ways to kind of create leverage of, maybe there's a video of how it was made, or there's all sorts of things that you can do that don't really cost you any more money, but incentivize people to actually buy it early, right? So that's where the money's going to come from for these prints, in theory, right? If it goes well, is we're going to actually do pre-orders, waiting list first, then pre-orders, and then we're going to have a drop, right? Why a drop? Why would we do a drop? You all know that reference, right? We announced the date that we're going to actually release these things, and we are probably going to put a finite period of time on how long they're available. Could be a day, could be a week, depends on the amount of initial interest. The idea is that you want to sell everything that you have. But what's the advantage? There's two major advantages that I can think of with having a drop that has a finite period of time. Any guesses on that? Scarcity, right? That's number one. Rule number one, scarcity, right? Scarcity drives action. Okay. What's a second reason that we might want to release these all at once. I guess there's a third reason I can think of too. No? Builds hype, yeah, for sure. So that's in that scarcity package. So it builds hype, gets people excited, they share it. The window's very narrow. So the answer is inventory, right? So if you have 200 posters, maybe you keep them in your apartment or your studio, but you don't want to have a business that is reliant on warehousing inventory, right? I mean, there are businesses that do, but space costs money. So if you can sell them all at once, guess what else happens? You're going to ship them at once. So you might have a shipping party with your friends. My brother and I are talking about just getting together and like packaging these things up, bundle and send them out, right? It's all taken care of. I don't have to worry about orders dripping in, which is a distraction, and everything's sent out, right? You also get your capital, you get your money, your return on it very quickly. And when you have money that kind of you have in reserve, what can you do? You can advertise, you can market, you can start your next product, you can move on. Does that all make sense? So we're trying to drive scarcity. We're trying to make this business model as efficient as we possibly can. And I don't like things that linger. If I sell it, I want to sell out and I want to move on. Okay. There's other business models that have inventory for sure. They always have, but that's a big part of the problem that you have. And the reason a lot of the box stores are closing up, right? A lot of these real estate challenges that you have when you have a lease, you have overhead, you're running space. That's why the online marketplace is so impactful on those things. All right. So something else came to light as we were speaking to Jimmy down at Keith Fabry. He also said, we also ship things out for you. So you can actually order things through them, have someone order a print through them, and you can print them on demand. So even G-Clay is print on demand. You can send those things out. They box them, they ship them, they label them. That's overhead that you don't have to cover for someone to do that for you. Yeah. Yes, I mean, you're 100% correct. So the feedback, again, I'm just saying for the recording, is that it's hard to assess quality control, right? Things go out and you don't know if they're good or bad. So a way to work around that, one, local company, right? So you can do these things in batches. I also face the challenge of, like, this is a G-Clay, how do I sign them? The print on demand, how do we sign? So we have to work that through. So we might batch them 10 at a time. I can go down there and do signings. That's all stuff we're figuring out. But something you can do with Redbubble, you can do with Printful and everything else, is you can order your own inventory. And they know that quality control is also a challenge. So Printful, as an example, gives you a discount, like a major discount. So you're paying cost, not your actual overhead on it, right? So you can get something that costs, have a coffee mug. I might pay $6 for it, where I've charged retail $20 for it. So you can get your own product. You can check out how it's packaged. You can see if it was delivered on time, if all them, and that's just kind of a way of surveying quality and having quality control yourself. Does that make sense? So certainly, like, those are things that always make me nervous, like especially on the high end, like a G-Clay or a screen print, right? If this is a poster, that's a little bit different, right? If it's a zine, it's a little bit different. There's some margin there. But when you start to get into things that are truly archival and collectible, you want to make sure that those things are actually of the highest standard that you can achieve. So they box these things themselves, double thick packages. Very, very impressed with their whole operation there. If you have a chance, they do stickers, they do business cards. If it sounds like I'm giving them a plug, I am, because they really, I want to do business with this company myself. No, not that I know of. And I would love to know locally somebody who's printing books. There's a lot of things like Lulu does books. I know that Amazon has a book printing on demand. That's another conversation about, I mean, when you get into books, there's weight, there's volume, there's shipping. there's a mixed books. There's all sorts of different venues out there that you can go online and kind of assess quality control. But locally, I don't know who's printing books locally. So if y'all find somebody, let me know. Thank you. So you said the Creative Print Bureau, and that's in the Pollock building. Yeah. They also have, drawn a blank all of a sudden, zines, 4-color process, risograph. Yeah, no, risograph, right? So a lot of options there for students for sure. And my mind goes immediately to professional services, but remember that as a part of a university, you have so many things accessible to you, from scanners to printers. We have that amazing lab over at Cabell Library that does etching and 3D printing and everything else. So just remember that those are resources that you should be aware of. If you haven't been trained in those things, you haven't visited those things, don't just read about it online, walk over and talk to somebody. You'll be amazed at what kind of can be done for that. Thank you. Thank you, reminder. All right. So just a couple of resources there. One thing that I've noticed about Gumroad is I don't know if they allow physical products anymore. Okay, so that's something that if you decide to do physical products, you may want to have your own storefront to kind of work with. I use Big Cartel. They have the free plan like everywhere else, allows 1 photo of your image, 5 products, and then you start to pay at different plans and everything else. But this is something that allows you to kind of see into your total sales, your shipping and everything else. The store is customizable. They've got different templates. Again, I'm recommending these because they've worked for me. Are there other resources out there? 100%. If you find something better, I'm always open for that. But right now, this is something that looks like my website. It feels like my website. And I like the way that it presents itself. Yes. It's more that you have the product. They're not in production, right? They're like the end product. I have a thing. I want to sell it. I'm going to ship it. All of those things are kind of after you've gone through that entire production process. Okay. So the question was about Redbubble. And again, there's tons of resources out there that are kind of these print on demand that kind of allow for a storefront. That's kind of the Printful business model, which is they have products and you are essentially branding a product when you sell it, right? The way those work is that you have a base price typically. And it's like, this is what it costs per unit. And then you get to say, this is what I want to charge for them. So if you have a sticker that costs $1, you might charge $3. So your markup, your profit is $2 for every sticker that you sell. Yes. I you shouldn't have to have the password. Let me see what's going on there and kind of get back to you on that. So, it doesn't have a password. Okay. It's in Discord. I'll make sure that we follow up on that. Sure. All right. So that's kind of a demonstration of tools that I'm kind of looking at, things that I'm using as far as oh, sure, you got it. I did nothing. This is what my store looks like currently, and this is not what we're going to be selling things through with our new store. But these here, these are considered mock-ups. Okay, so I made this, I had the artwork, did not have the screen print at this point. So this is a Photoshop mock-up. You can see kind of how having a mock-up that provides context presents like the sense like this is what we're trying to make. And I've even got, when I originally launched it, like this is not the final product. This is a mock-up. You can find mock-ups online, Graphic Burger and places like that. This is one that I made, really easy to make from a JPEG or an image like that. Okay. So just a few things for you to look at and to be aware of. Any questions on that at all? All right. Why am I talking about this? Ultimately, we want to launch, we want to have a platform. How many of you, after having been given that charge that you're going to go out and make something, have gotten excited about it? How many of you have a really solid idea of what you want to make already? Right. How many of you were making things already and selling them? Okay. So you're ahead. So like once you've done it, it becomes easier, right? So pretty much everybody who's like, I'm confident, I know what I'm making. And I said, who's made things and sold them before? Almost all the same people raised their hand. So that's why I'm having those of you who've never done this before do it. You'll know how, right? Okay. So all of those things said, we're going to start setting up here in just a moment with the guest speaker and have everything on here. We're going to try to kick off 10:05. Updates for you. The next thing that I want you to do now that you've been introduced to the Miro boards, anyone familiar with a vision board? All right. What is a vision board? Let me go to someone else because you got good knowledge base. Vision board. Someone want to speak? Noah? Yeah. Yeah. So it lets you kind of triangulate, if you will. You go out, you gather things. I want to be here. I want to be doing this, right? We can have vision boards for our life, right? During COVID, we were trying to figure out what to do. And I was like, I want to get a travel trailer. I want to go camping with my family. That's how we're going to resolve this. So I had a vision board for all these different trailers and pop-ups and everything else. And eventually we made it happen. But your vision board with your business, the way that I want you to use this is I want you to go find other artists, other creatives. They don't have to be artists, but other creatives who are already running successful businesses, right? Doesn't mean that they're super popular on Instagram, although that could be part of their venue and part of their platform. But people who are like, they're having shows, they're selling comics, they're going to conventions, they're actively doing business. Because I don't want you to take their style or lean into their voice. I don't want you to be influenced by their artwork. I want you to look at their trajectory for their career as a blueprint for yours. Okay, we'll talk more about how we kind of scope and research, but that's what I want you to do. If you want to use Miro board, you can. You don't have to. I just need a snapshot that you've gone out for your homework. You found 3 other creatives who seem to be making it work. So these are contemporary artists. And I want you to kind of have just several samples of their work and a little bit of a written description about how they're doing it. And you might say, well, how do I figure out how they're doing it? Well, as artists, we love to talk about ourselves a lot, right? We go out there, we can look at their bio. We can look at their work history. We can look at their client list. These are all things that you can start to deconstruct and say, oh, they were a student just like I was. They went to art center and then they did this. They had a first show and they did this and did that. And before I know it, they were on the cover of New Yorker magazine, right? So that's the trajectory. They didn't start there. They ended there. So we're trying to look at where they began, and that's where your kind of path begins as well. Okay. So the lesson to share is kind of building on Go Where They Gather. You have to geek out. And I kind of referenced this the other day. You've got to be totally into what you're into. Right? There's no half measures here. Like this is it. This is that you're going to commit to something that's your passion that you're also trying to make your business. That's a hard thing to do. The thing that you love doing in your off time and it brings you joy, it's also going to now bring you stress. And you're going to be expected to do it all the time, right? If you're going to do this seriously. So things to think about there. Any questions for me? So the vision board, there's a place for this in Canvas to submit just a snapshot. It could be a screenshot of your research. I don't have time with a class this big to go through everybody's research, say, oh, you've got all these details. I want you to want to do it for yourself because this is the blueprint that's there, but I can get a snapshot. So place it in Canvas, also put it on Miro board. Yes. Check it out again because I updated this morning too. So I'm running to keep up with the assignments on these things. So hopefully before they're due, so it's due next Friday, I'll have all those things in place, and I keep going over them again and again. So thank you. All right. Any other questions for me? We know where we are. This afternoon when we meet, we're not going to have a whole lot of time, but I want you to meet with your cohorts again. We'll go next door, and I want you to make sure that you are talking about your ideas. It's kind of metal sharpening metal, right? So you're all you're finding resources, share them with each other in your cohorts on Discord, test your ideas, say them out loud. And when you go into Gumroad and you kind of set up that account, it'll ask you for your product idea. It'll ask you for your market. It'll ask you kind of for your bio. what your kind of name is, and all these other things. Those are things that are really important to know. You can't really do business without them. So go through that process on Gumroad, set those things up, and you'll be in a pretty good place. All right. Let's break for 10 minutes, and we'll be back with our guest artist. Thank you.